Hello and welcome to my channel. In today's video, we're gonna look together onto some TikToks, what a product manager is, what a product manager does, and also paths on how you become a product manager. Let's go.
They say that being a product manager is like being the CEO of the product. Turns out the CEO is the CEO of the product. They say you'll own the roadmap, you'll own the strategy. The only thing you own are bad decisions that you didn't make, they did.
Also here, it's very contextual where you're being a product manager. So for example, I myself work at a startup where the hierarchies are super flat. The actual CEO of the company has a big say in where the product is actually developing. And what I've noticed is my task is to proactively shape the roadmap, make feature suggestions, and then including the CEO into the decision-making process. In rare cases, the CEO will say, no, this doesn't make any sense at all. So it's really like a co-creation process.
So if you like a lot of responsibility without any authority, answer that startup's LinkedIn message. You might regret it.
So in the end, Silicon Valley has a very negative picture here about being a product manager in a startup, but it always depends. The type of company, how product oriented the CEO is. What I've heard, there's a very high degree of autonomy of you being the product manager and actually being the CEO of the product. All right, let's look at the next video.
I recently switched from software engineering to product manager, and one thing I've learned as a PM is that you have to be super meticulous about blocking your calendar off for work time. Otherwise, you will end up like me today, 10 meetings on a Tuesday. Thankfully, I had an hour block in the morning to do some heads down PRD work. In the mornings, I had a bunch of one-on-one.
So also here, as a product manager, you will have a lot of meetings. And it's super important to say no. To say no to meetings and always ask yourself, why do I need to be here? In the end, it's really important that you find the right balance of aligning stakeholders and setting up meetings where you need a clear decision or some insights that other people have. But first, my tip here is try to do as many things asynchronously as possible. So if you have certain questions, just write a quick message, give a few cents about a context, what you're working on, and that should usually be enough.
One-on-one meetings with some of the client team members, legal, and a weekly sync to go over ongoing projects and any blockers. Then I had an hour-long backlog review meeting to go over feature requests for Q4 and to prioritize them. I didn't have time for lunch, so my lovely boyfriend brought me a meal from my favorite cafe to my meeting room so I wouldn't starve for the day. Had an end review in the afternoon. I had an hour break before my last meeting, so I rushed home, changed into my PJs, and take my last meeting from bed.
So the key takeaway here is block your time, and it's super important to say no. Let's look at the next video.
If you're wondering what a product manager in tech works on and how they split up their time, here's the breakdown. 50% of my time is focused on current projects. This means full speed ahead, we're getting this coded and launched. Daily stand-ups with engineers and designers to get to product release. 30% of my time is focused on near-term planning. This means coming up with a roadmap for the next 3 to 6 months. Brainstorms, writing specs, and getting buy-in and alignment from other teams you need to work with.
So what Cherie here is referring to, as a product manager, you have two core swim lanes. The first one is product delivery and the second one is product discovery. And product delivery is all about shipping features. What you usually do during the product delivery is you assist engineers. If they have more questions about the feature, if some things are not clear, you give them the right context and answer them the question. And then what you usually do in parallel is you already discover the next feature you're going to be building in 1 to 3 months ahead of time.
10% of the time, I'm focused on product strategy. This is the most fun part of my job. It's thinking about where your product is going in the next 1 to 5 years. This is the higher level, more philosophical part of my job. The last 10% is getting visibility for yourself and for your team so everyone knows what you're working on. Follow me for this PM video series.
I think that is super interesting. I don't know where Cherie worked in. It seems that she did not work in a startup, but rather a more mature company. And in a startup, I can tell you, it's important to have a clear strategy, so you have a clear set of goals to reach your vision, where the product wants to go, but you also have to be super adaptive, because as a startup you want to be super quick. And from my experience now, so working 2 years in a startup, usually the product strategy is just a rough guideline, and within that you have a lot of flexibility of what features you're actually building, and the time frames are way shorter, so we're not talking about 5 years here, so it's usually about what are we doing in the next half year or in the next year.
Here's a cool infographic on how you can become a product manager. I got this infographic from this blog right here. One of the big takeaways here is that there are many roles that can lead into being a product manager. The top of this chart shows that the roles vary between customer service, business, marketing, operations, and engineering. Specifically, some of the roles they show here are business development manager, program manager, marketing manager, project manager, and engineer.
I think this is actually an interesting graph. So one of the easiest way, and it's not easy to break into product, is to internal transition. So one tip I can give how I actually broke into product management. So I was actually working in business development. The things I was doing were also super heavily overlapping with what a product manager would usually do. So doing user interviews, doing market research. And what I did, I very quickly talked to my manager and told him about I would like to move into product. How can we make this happen?
If you're in one of those roles, sometimes you can transfer into an associate product manager role, and oftentimes you can transfer right into a product manager role.
So I can confirm that, especially when you work in a startup, titles are a bit more vague. For example, my journey was I was first working in business development, and then I transitioned into an entrepreneur in residence role, working in a product team and supporting the product manager of that team, and then slowly taking more tasks of that person, and then becoming a product manager myself after a bit less than 1 year.
I'm an example of this. I went from being an engineer to a program manager and then to a product manager. This chart also shows career progression as a product manager, so here you can go from regular PM to a senior PM or director of PM, and then from there you can also go to VP or even Chief Product Officer. Let me know if you have any questions on this.
Awesome. What is also worth mentioning, that would be a very linear career path of a product manager. What I've also seen is a lot of product manager actually, they become a founder themselves. Some of them also go into venture capital. If you're interested about the exit opportunities and the career progressions of a product manager, let me know in the comments. So I hope you liked this video. If you liked it, I would love for you to give a thumbs up and smash that subscribe button. And see you next time.